Thank you to all of you for sharing. Just real quick, I'll share one of my own experiences. Even here at RISD, I have been best friends with Yelitsa since freshman year, and it's really incredible to me. We've been through a lot of classes, we've done a lot of stuff together, so we work together kind of as you will. But it's really just ridiculous how much change there is in how we're treated. We speak out about a lot of the same things, and we're both very passionate about people, and yet she's the one who gets categorized as the angry Black woman. I don't experience that. And so even if these things may seem little, it's just about recognizing these and having that discussion. The problem is a lot of people think it's wrong to have that kind of discussion, but by not talking about it, we are allowing those issues to prevail. Also, something that I'm sure everyone here has heard before is that I'm colorblind. Oh, I don't see race. And there are also a lot of people who believe that America is post-racial. So my next question for you all is, what do you think about this notion? And why do you think many people believe we as a nation are post-racial?
I believe the nation is post-racial because there's a Black person in the White House. So everything is solved. There's no more racism, there's no more bigotry, there's no more discrimination. How can it be? You have a Black person in the White House. So isn't that logical? No, it's not. In some ways, we have more racial problems because of the fact we have a Black person in the White House. And because of the demographic change, it's like, oh no, we want our country back. We? Who's we? Country? We want it back from what? From who? What? Where? That's what's going on. And you got this uneasy coexistence with a country that is drowning every single day. The majority of kids under 5 in the United States today are of color. Today. I don't want to talk about 20 years from now when the country's going to be a minority country. We can look at the youth right now, majority already. And it's scary to a lot of people because they don't have the relationships with people of color. I think for those that do, not nearly as scary, but for those who don't, you know, there's a threat. And I think all of this backdrop has to do with a lot of the bad apple police, and I think the vast majority of police officers do a great job. It's only a few, the bad apples, but the police can't police the police, and that's the problem. You know, it's a problem that I think could continue because people are harkening back to, I like it back when it was Leave It to Beaver and Father Was Best. Those days are gone. We're not going back there. That's gone. Gone are the days when I saw a Black person on TV, we had to call somebody. Turn channel 7, quick. Because that was the only Black person you're going to see on TV that week. Those days are gone. Okay, we're living in a new world, a new society, and we have to live together, or we're going to perish as fools.
I feel like part of the issue with thinking that we're post-racial and that we're a colorblind society is has to do with the education system and how we're taught about the civil rights movement and how we're told, oh yeah, Martin Luther King came and then he ended racism, and now we have so it's like this process, and then you're told not to discuss race, or there isn't discussions of race in households, certain households. And so you're told, okay, well, we don't think about the color of these people's skin, but you have implicit bias, which is informed by the media and all these different outlets that you're watching. You're constantly seeing negative depictions of people of color. You rarely see positive depictions of like Black families. You see them getting arrested on TV because that's the only thing that the news media wants to show. And so you just have this divide developing, and it's not being held because classrooms are not diverse. You don't have people of color interacting with different types of people. Like, you come to these institutions where there's still low percentage of students of color, and you're still not having the opportunity to have discussions with them and learn about their background to help you break down these implicit biases you have.
I think that part of the notion that we're past race is thinking that we can just legislate all these problems away and not saying the pushback after the legislation. And there's a history of it, you know, after Reconstruction, after the Civil War, it wasn't finished completely because there was a pushback from the Southern legislative members, the congressmen, the senators, against the rules that the North had put in place. And the we see the same thing happening today, because now a lot of the gains we achieved through the Voting Rights Act are starting to be slowly repealed, like the voter ID stuff. The voter ID is a big issue in North Carolina, and not only that, like I spoke on earlier, there's a cultural aspect to it where people are like, all right, yeah, the law says this, but you can't change what I believe, and people think that just having an opinion is enough. I think that we want people to have opinions, but we also want to know what influences their opinion. And one of the things that shows we're not post-racial is the cry for some people for Barack Obama's birth certificate. You know what I mean? Like, why he was born in Hawaii? Like, he was born in this country where people thinking, oh, Obama's a Muslim. Yeah, so what? We can't have a Muslim president? The colorblindness comes from this like reasonable comfort now. Like, okay, we shut the black folks up now. Like, everything's cool, and like we can just go on, you know. And a lot of the problems that we have had in the past are just rearing their ugly head under new forms. And until we stop dealing with the topical issues and actually start to focus on the structure, the root of the problem, then it'll just be another vicious cycle continually going on. And those people who have more radical ideas are being ostracized and marginalized over those who present, like I said, the safe notion of blackness. You know what I mean? Like, case in point, Jim Vincent has a suit on and I'm wearing, you know, whatever the hell I picked out my closet on the way here.
It's because I can't afford what you got on.
But just, you know, or if I came here, you know, with baggy clothes, boots, and a hoodie on, you know, who's more likely to be, you know, listened to, accepted, welcomed in? You know, it'll be Jim, because, you know, he's a black guy, but he's, you know, he's not like one of you guys, or he can talk properly, or he doesn't use slang and he doesn't sag his pants. So he's the kind of black person we want to have around. And I think that's the feeling a lot of white folks have, and a lot of white folks in power have. Like when black folks start to pop up in these, you know, high offices, when Barack got elected, when George W. Bush appointed Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell. It's nice to have those people in power, but we have to look at how they're using that power to help the groups they represent. And I don't think that the black folks we've had in power have done a great enough job. And so it's time for the quote unquote bad Negroes to kind of make our voices heard. And we've been doing that with our art instead of, you know, stuff like prose. That's how, you know, hip hop developed. And I think we're starting to see that shift now, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot to add to what you just said, like the idea that like a lot of people think that America is post-racial because of how like people can like legislate things away, but I feel like the same way about like academia, on like our institutions and the education system, like the idea that we can like educate things away. So like I feel like similar to like when a law is passed, like when like slavery is like abolished, like when like affirmative action gets like introduced in schools, and like how like Brown University has like Third World Center or like an Africana studies department, like I think it's like designed to feel like progress, but like I feel like a lot of it it like civilizes the students and like the people of color to make them like feel so they have a space like on campus to gather, so they don't revolt and stuff, because like radical politics, like I don't feel like are really able to be like taught in schools. And that way, I feel like related to like my experience at RISD, which I feel like is from like a Western perspective, like just like the idea that like all our ideas are like these like external things, and like there's a quote from like Pottery Lord that's like the white fathers told us that I think, therefore I am, but the black mother inside each of us like feels says like I feel, therefore I can dream. And I think the idea of like I think, therefore I am is like rooted in like ideas of like colonization, like the blank canvas is like an idea that like like this topic is like an idea that I can colonize on the blank canvas, and rather than like rather than like the act of art and poetry being like an unveiling of like the power that you already have inside yourself, like it's like power has to be like taken from like these external spaces and like put into the work. And I think like that kind of like a mentality is what is taught in a lot of like Western like art institutions, and I think like it directly relates to like like colonization. And I don't know if I've like departed a lot from post-racial.
No, but it's interesting what you said about affirmative action and creating these spaces for students of color to like make sure they're not writing. And it's like you're just putting a band-aid on a gaping wound, and you're not actually getting to the root of the problem, which is what we would prefer you to do.
All right, so what to you is a key misunderstanding when thinking about the Ferguson case or the way that people are discussing these issues?
I think that there's been a lot of riot shaming. I know a lot of people have said, yeah, I like what these people are doing, but why are they burning up their own communities? And not realizing that sometimes you need to be heard. And Dr. King said, rioting is the language of the unheard. You know, when you realize what these people are doing, something has to hit you like wow, this has to be a serious problem. You know, and I think that you can kind of see an element of the state maintenance of violence when cops tell the protesters, oh, stay peaceful. You know, what I hear is stay peaceful, or we will use our training, our means, and whatever else we have to make sure you stay peaceful. And I think that's a big issue that needs to be addressed. Like with the protests, there's always a police element kind of patrolling, making sure things stay civil. And I'm like, we don't need cops to tell us how to behave. You know, I can go down the street and, you know, not rob somebody, and I don't need a cop to tell me that. And I think that this is kind of, the protesters are being split up amongst this good protester, bad protester divide. And that kind of delegitimizes the struggle, and it kind of turns the protesters against each other, and it creates infighting. And I think that's wrong.
I think that people don't understand the fact that Ferguson is emblematic of many other incidents that have happened in this country. There's at least, I don't know, pick a number, 20, 30, 40 unarmed black men that have been killed by white cops, and there has not been any indictment. Okay, so this has been happening, and it's been happening for a while. So, you know, people, after Trayvon, there was so much angst in the community, and you felt it could not get any worse. And then you have an unarmed black man that gets shot 12 times. He's laying in the street for 4 or 5 hours. Very reminiscent of when they used to hang a black and leave him up on the tree for 4 or 5 hours to say, hey, see, if you do that like him, this will happen to you too. Okay, and people don't understand those symbols and how the black community looks at those symbols. And they say, we didn't understand. Well, you need to understand. You need to understand you can't do that. And if you don't understand, then you shouldn't be a police officer. You shouldn't be part of the apparatus, at all. You have people that feel that, well, grand jury did its job. Grand jury's not there to find guilt or innocence. They're there to see whether or not there's enough there that of doubt to take it to a jury. How can there not have been probable doubt in that case? That should have went to a jury trial. And people feel that you can shoot somebody 12 times unarmed and there's no doubt whether or not that cop might have done something wrong. There's plenty of doubt. Now, he might have been proven innocent in a court of law, but it never got to that point. And people accept it. We accept people being gunned down, and choked to death on film. And there's some people that feel that, well, there shouldn't have been an indictment. What kind of country are we living in when we don't think that there's enough of a doubt that it should go to a jury trial and let the judge and the jury and whoever else decide that? And it's case after case after case after case after case. It is definitely has well got out of hand. And that's why you have people demonstrating from coast to coast, because they're not being heard. They need to be heard. The grand jury system in terms of local grand juries doesn't work. It just doesn't when it comes to police versus almost any system, not just a black system. Any system, it does not work. You will not ever get an indictment, period. So you can't have a system like that where the result is already predetermined. That's not a system, that's a mockery. So that has to be changed. You have to have police officers that reflect the community. That's the first thing I think you learn at the academy, that if you have good police-community relations, then you're going to have a better outcome. So when you don't have any relations, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, they should get rid of the whole police force and get a whole new group in there. Body cameras, you need all of that stuff because you need accountability, you need transparency. So, I think the biggest misunderstanding is that, well, there was just one thug that, robbed the store and he's dead. So what's all the big deal about? It's a systemic problem here in America. Black people that are young black people are targeted. They just are. By all the police, no. By certain police, yes. Can the police the police? No, they haven't. Not here, not anywhere. That's the problem. We got to change it. And when I was part of a couple of demonstrations and I saw white kids with signs saying Black Lives Matter, I felt hope. And racist cops have got to go. I felt hope because it wasn't so much the black kids that were doing it, or that black young people, not kids, young people, that were holding up the signs. But there were white people, and I hadn't seen anything like that since I was in college, when we had Kent State and those kinds of things, and protesting the Vietnam War. So, it just felt so good to see young people, that really cared enough to go out there and make their statements. No, because we haven't seen it in a while. So each and every one of you should be proud of yourself.
One thing I want to add, when we talk about this Black Lives Matter, a lot of people want to change it to no, well, all lives matter. That's a big no-no for me. You know what I mean? For me, that's like going to a Kanye West concert and be like, hey, what about Drake? Like, yeah, we like drink too, but this is this is Yeezy's time right now. We're focused on Yeezy right now. Like, that's all lives matter. We get it, but we're talking about Black lives. This is a problem that, for the most part, affects Black lives. You know, and I think that's kind of speaks to. I just lost my train of thought, but I just wanted to say that, like, yes, all lives matter, but this is specifically addressing Black lives.
And that's also true. Black lives matter. When a person wants to shift the conversation to all lives matter, or what about black on black crime? You know, I say, well, what about the Patriots game this week? What about the Celtics? I mean, we can talk about any other thing other than what we're talking about. We're talking about Black lives matter. We're not talking about the Patriots. We're not talking about black on black crime. Why can't you stay focused on the issue? Why do you try to deflect and defer? You know, let's talk about the issue. Black lives matter. We're not talking about black on black crime. I'll have that show next week, and you can be my guest. We'll talk about that next week. We're not talking about that. And I don't care if it's Rudy Giuliani, whoever talks about it, he's in denial. Doesn't want to talk about the issue.
And the point I want to make, I'm sorry, but I'm done, I swear. The point I want to make is, in the instances of black on black crime, the person who perpetuated the crime is more than likely brought to justice or has some type of punishment. When it's a police matter, the police have the backing of the legal system, have the backing of their training. They're a part of this professionalized unit, so the idea that they could make a mistake, you know, is minimized. That's privilege. That's basically privilege.
I wanted to bring up the issue of the grand jury and how people say, oh, well, the grand jury decided not to take this to the court, so it's fine. And I feel like that is a larger issue, how people believe, like, oh, our systems are perfect already, so why are we critiquing them? And it's like, you realize the grand jury and all these people, lawyers, judges, these are all people like you and me, and if we have faults, they can also have faults. So you can't just expect the grand jury, which is the average everyday citizen, to be able to make flawless decisions, and you shouldn't believe that they're all perfect, ideal, morally acceptable individuals. So you should be able to critique these systems. Like, we have our Declaration of Independence and all our rights and everything. And it's like, well, you know, a while back ago, we didn't, like, slaves didn't have rights, but it was okay to have a slave. So we changed the laws then, why can't we change the laws now?
You know, that grand jury process in Ferguson, that prosecutor McCullough did everything he could to get that officer off the hook. He acted like he was the defense attorney, offering exculpatory evidence. We'll heard a prosecutor to that grand jury. It just doesn't happen. But it happened in Ferguson. He did everything he could. Maybe he had a conflict of interest, like maybe 5 people in his family being police officers. Maybe having to work with local police in other cases, so you didn't want to turn them off, so he had to try to go easy. Well, that's a conflict of interest. And people just like, well, okay. But that's not okay. That's a major problem. And the country should have demanded justice. That country should have demanded justice because the judicial system was on trial. It's too important to let the judicial system be on trial like that. And just let's say, well, what? Oh, well, you know, just one other case. That was a defining case. And then we have the person that got Eric Garner choked on film. The police officer had charges on him before. They had to pay fines. Chokehold illegal in New York for 20 years. Okay? On film, the guy, I mean, I can't breathe, I mean, and then nothing. This officer gets nothing. I mean, isn't life worth something? And when the majority of the country, unlike Ferguson, black and white, said something wrong, then I said, you know, maybe the silver lining in this cloud is that something's going to happen after this Staten Island, because that was outrageous. That was on film. Everybody could see it. Nobody could understand how there was no indictment there. Nobody that wasn't biased or bigoted could understand that. They just couldn't. Black or white. It's just underscored the problems we're having here in America.
And to add to all of this, I think another one of the big misunderstandings for Ferguson is people are just misinformed. People are not reading. People are not making ideas for themselves. People are not trying to condition themselves. They're listening to X, Y, Z, element of P, and they're telling them BS. BS. And I think that us as a nation, as a community, we have to take responsibilities for our own information. Where are we getting it from? Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Like, those conversations and those things you bring up matter. And only if you're sharing terrible, wrong information. Only thing you're doing is perpetuating stereotypes, perpetuating like these negative idealizations of people. And I think that's one of the huge issues, because I can have conversations with anyone, and you can tell someone who's been informed about what they're talking about, who's done the research, and people are just going off of what people on Fox News are saying. And it's just like, are you human beings? Do you exist in the same place that I exist? No, you absolutely can't.
So then I feel it's important for people, I'm assuming everyone here in this audience, who is informed, who does take the time to educate themselves, to use their knowledge. And if you hear a friend saying something that you know is wrong, is problematic, is biased, take the opportunity to educate them and correct them. Because who else than someone in their personal life? Like if they're arguing with someone on the internet, they're not going to listen to that person, but they're more likely to listen